Are the Pittsburgh Steelers trying to eye up some big-name veteran wide receiver targets here in free agency to where they could possibly make a big splash trade here ahead of the 2024 season? Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their possible wide receiver targets in free agency, in the trade market, and just what exactly Omar Khan has in store for your Pittsburgh Steelers and what this would mean for a football team like the Steelers that have basically reconstructed the entire quarterback room ahead of the 2024 season. So let's talk about all of that and dive in. Let's see where I think the Pittsburgh Steelers might move in free agency. You have Mike Williams coming in on Thursday. You have the Tyler Boyd talks that seem to have maybe stalled a little bit. You still have Hunter Renfrow out there, former Las Vegas Raider. You have that guy out there as a target. You still have those types of dudes out there that you could possibly go ahead and make a move for and bring them in and get them signed for a decent deal. Not trying to break the bank, because Omar Khan seems to be a guy that tries to get guys in on reasonable deals. Again, to give himself options, not to limit the team, not to limit the franchise in terms of financial, fiscal responsibilities. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, have those guys that are possible free agent targets here, and that could still happen, guys. That could definitely still happen, but where I'm really starting to look is maybe another trade. You saw the Pittsburgh Steelers ditch Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers, and they got back in return a cornerback. So yes, they filled a hole with that, but they lost Deontay Johnson and his route running ability and things of that nature, a guy that was a 1 or 2 target for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023. So the Pittsburgh Steelers lose that production. A guy that went almost 600 and some days without a touchdown in Deontay Johnson, but was able to score last year and able to kind of get things going yet again. But now the Pittsburgh Steelers eyeing this trade market. There's guys like Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Brandon Ayuk, guys like that, 49ers, maybe they make a deal with him if the price isn't too high to get Brandon Ayuk in here. What about the Bills? Maybe getting rid of Stephon Diggs. Is it worth the drama? You see Diggs always in the media last year, causing disruption inside of the locker room for the Buffalo Bills last year. It was constant type news. All the time you heard it. And then you see big name guys like the Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, a guy that's probably the best wide receiver in the entire NFL right now. Imagine him with the likes of a George Pickens, teaming those two guys up with a quarterback like Russell Wilson with a run game that could be so special. Then you could really have some deadly targets on the offensive side of the football. And if the Steelers could get these guys for the right price, then it could possibly work. But if you go out and get Justin Jefferson, guys, I want you to know that it is going to cost a fortune, an absolute fortune. But here's the good side of this. You're not putting any money into the quarterback room. You have no big name guys on offense right now that you're paying a boatload of money to. So that in turn helps the Pittsburgh Steelers be able to make moves like this. They haven't done any real restructures to speak of inside of the contracts that they have already available to them to restructure or extend is what it should be called, not restructure. Extend is what it should be, because you're adding years, adding money to kick the can down the road a little bit to alleviate the cap hit for your Steelers. So if you're Pittsburgh and you're going out and you're looking at these big name targets, you have to look at this in a financial way. How are you going to be able to handle that contract once you do have to pay a quarterback in 2025? That will come soon. But there will be other guys that you go ahead and you kind of just kick out because, you know, of money, age, things like that next year. So you may be able to free up some dollars to do a little bit of a quarterback contract. Or if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you go out and figure a way out now to extend a guy like Justin Fields pre-May 2 to be able to get that as at a reasonable price and maybe ride with him for 2025. Or if Russell Wilson comes back, maybe you are able to get him at a reasonable price because he is more interested in possibly winning instead of just making big dollars right now. Maybe he would rather have big time weapons around him and make a $15 or $20 million a year type salary moving forward with your Steelers if he has a productive 2024. So those are options in order for the Pittsburgh Steelers to gain the services of one of these big name guys that are going to cost you a couple bucks to bring in. And if I'm the Steelers and I'm Omar Khan and I'm looking at all these veterans, I'm going to eliminate Stephon Diggs for one reason: his inability to be a great locker room guy. It seems like that he is an issue there. So I would eliminate him. I wouldn't be willing to break the bank for a guy like him. Then you look at Brandon Ayuk, a guy that's had major production, a guy that beat on the Steelers a little bit in week 1 of the 2023 season, with Brock Purdy throwing him the football. Maybe that would be a target because it wouldn't be as high probably as a Justin Jefferson. So then you look at a guy like Justin Jefferson. You're going to break the bank for him. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, who do you pick? It would be more of like a Brandon Ayuk or a Justin Jefferson type guy. You know you're going to spend money, but where do you go? How much draft capital do you got to give up to get one of these guys in a trade? How much of the salary are you going to take on? Because maybe some of these teams are willing to get rid of these guys and eat some of their salary. You don't know that either. That is another variable. But if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're trying to go all in for the 2024 season, it would make sense to do this. George Pickens is a budding superstar, guys, and he can do some special things and has the possibility of becoming a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL in the 2024 season. It just depends on the quarterback play and how many targets he gets. But he definitely has the potential to be a top 5, top 3 type receiver in the NFL. And when you're bringing in talents like an Ayuk or Justin Jefferson, and I'm not saying that those guys have to be it, but when you're bringing top tier talent in at the wide receiver spot, that is going to make sure that you're going to not be doubled up on guys like George Pickens all the time. You're not going to be able to double team these guys because you're going to have to respect the run game. You're going to have to respect Najee Harris. You're going to have to respect a guy like Jalen Warren that can hit a home run from anywhere on the field at any time, and he's proven to be able to do that. An undrafted free agent that's done some special things. And he's cheap. And then you look at the tight end room that could really bud into something great in 2024. Pat Freiermuth could end up having a big year and have a big resurgence and really get back up to meet those expectations that originally were placed on him when he was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers out of Penn State. And then you see a guy like a Darnell Washington who can catch the football, can run for a large man. Also, he can block really well inside of that run game. You can get in these more heavy packages with 2 wides, things of that nature. If you had a Justin Jefferson and a George Pickens, man, that is really going to be tough to defend. And then you look at guys like Calvin Austin. They're going to have to respect his ability to blow the top off of a defense, which in turn would create opportunity for these other 2 big name guys, George Pickens and whoever else you bring in. Then you look at the guy in Van Jefferson that you brought in that's probably going to be the 4th or 5th wide receiver on the roster for the Steelers in 2024, which is going to also create a dynamic like, hey, we can go to this guy. They're going to be ignoring him. They don't have enough resources to commit to him. And he has proven in recent past that he can do big things, that he can get the job done. And maybe he has a resurgence in his career heading into the 2024 season. Maybe that is something that is an unspoken variable that we don't know could happen. You know, he's had some tough years as of late, but he has had as recent as 2021 a big season. So if you're the Steelers and you're Omar Khan, what have you done for yourself here in the free agency market? What have you done with yourself here for yourself as you've built this roster ahead of next year? You have given yourself opportunities and paths that you could follow, and you are going to create major mismatches for opposing defenses. And that is something the Pittsburgh Steelers have not been able to do here in a recent present that we've been living in here in the last couple of years. They haven't been able to create those mismatches to allow their wide receivers to get to work, allow that tight end room to get to work. They've had quarterbacks that have had happy feet, and you saw what a quarterback that was playing at an NFL level did for that roster. And that's not counting adding any of these big name guys. Also, that's not counting maybe you fix this offensive line totally and you get it to an elite level. And then, oh my lord, what if Russell Wilson or Justin Fields has an elite year in 2024? That is going to be a problem. And if your Pittsburgh Steelers are serious about going all in, and which is what I'm getting the vibe from Omar Khan right now, that the Pittsburgh Steelers are all about going all in for next year. And I think that adding a veteran wide receiver, adding a big name guy via trade, spending a couple bucks wouldn't be a bad thing. And I think if you're Omar Khan, you've given yourself options, and I keep saying that. But that is exactly what he's done, guys. And it's given the Pittsburgh Steelers flexibility. And flexibility is awesome to have in the NFL because most teams don't have it because they paint themselves into a corner with monster contracts that they can't afford, and they try to build super teams and it doesn't work. And Omar Khan has done it in a way to where he's not having monster contracts all over the place to where you're going to have cap casualties constantly. That's not going to happen. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been financially responsible, and it is really starting to pay big dividends. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are loading up for 2024. And don't be surprised, guys, if you see one of these big name targets, one of these big name wide receivers from another team being traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers by maybe even the end of next week or right ahead of the NFL draft. And this isn't even counting on who they draft and who they bring in as rookies, because Omar Khan had a great draft in 2023 with several contributors. And if he could do that again for 2024, man, would that be special, especially with the additions you've made during the free agency time and the money you've been able to save. All right, guys, so look for more moves here ahead of the draft in 2024. Keep watching us here at Mike Drop Sports because the news is going to continue to break, and things aren't over yet, guys. So keep paying attention to the Steeler Wire here, the News Wire, and keep paying attention to us here on Mike Drop Sports because we will bring you the up-to-date news as soon as it happens and as quickly as possible to make sure that you are in the know for every major news story that happens with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget our live show tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It might be closer to 6:45. We'll see. I have something going on here at 6 o'clock. So I might be a little past 6:30, but I will update in the community tab. So make sure you hit the notification bell so you're updated exactly when we go live. But again, guys, it'll be about 6:30 to 6:45 time range. We will be back and live for Steel City Live here on Mike Drop Sports. So until next time, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace.